Maybe you've bought sports tickets or theater tickets, or maybe even a small vacation at an auction before. But have you ever bought a house at an auction before? Well, we have. Today, I'm sitting down with my business partner, Aziz Shunnara, and we are discussing buying our first property at an auction at the courthouse steps in Birmingham, Alabama back in 2019. This is one of the craziest stories we've had behind purchasing a house, but probably also my favorite purchase of all time. So stay tuned for the story. Welcome to the Mastering Real Estate Podcast. This podcast is for real estate investors and professionals looking to take their real estate game to the next level. On Tuesdays, I analyze the industry's leading real estate books and break down the main lessons that you can apply to your life and business. Then on Thursdays, I review the lessons I have learned from flipping over 100 houses and being a full-time real estate investor since 2018. Stay tuned each week so that we can all become masters of real estate together. Welcome back to episode 14 of the podcast. A lot of people in this industry only talk about their successes and wins, but not me. My lessons learned have been hard-earned, and I want to share them with you so that hopefully you can avoid some of the mistakes that I made along the way as I learned to become a professional real estate investor. Today, we are talking about project number 7, a big flip that we bought at auction on the courthouse steps. Before we get into it, I'm your host, Maura. I've been a full-time real estate investor since 2018. I've managed over 100 flips, founded and grew a real estate investment firm and property management company, and I live and work in the real estate industry every day. If you're new here, welcome. We have 2 show formats on this podcast. On Tuesdays, I analyze the industry's leading real estate books, pick out the key points, and help you apply the key concepts to your life and business. Then on Thursdays, I share some of my own most important lessons learned from flipping over 100 houses and being a full-time real estate investor. Today, we're reviewing project number 7, the first house that we bought at auction. This is a fun and crazy story and probably my favorite purchase of all time. Before we get deeper into the story, let's review some of the basic property details of this project. We bought this property at auction at the courthouse steps in Birmingham, Alabama. The house was located at 2457 Watson Road in Birmingham, Alabama. This was a flip, a pretty intense flip. The house was built in 1947. It was 1,324 square feet with 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. The year was 2019, and overall, the project took us 7 months. Our project cost was $107,000 with a purchase price of $57,000 and a rehab cost of $50,000. We ended up selling the house for $135,000 for a profit of about $28,000. Those are your basic deal details. You can also check out our show notes and our YouTube video if you want to see the before and after photos, as well as a video tour of the property. Today, I am so happy to welcome my business partner, Aziz Shunnara, onto the podcast to discuss this deal. Aziz is the one who was actually on the courthouse steps and placed the winning bid on this property, so I thought it was really important to include him in this review of the project. But before we get into our interview with Aziz, let me tell you a little bit about him. Aziz is the CFO and managing partner of Duratus Properties and Duratus Academy. He has a comprehensive background in business negotiations, finance, entrepreneurship, and management. He is also an experienced business advisor in numerous industries, including restaurants, retail, wholesale, and financial services. Before joining Duratus, Aziz was the founder and CEO of Automotive Concepts, one of the oldest and most trustworthy automotive businesses in Birmingham from 1996 all the way until 2021. Additionally, Aziz co-founded a property management company called Freedom Ventures Property Management in 2019, along with myself and Danny Gonzalez, who was on the last episode of the podcast. And he helped grow that company to over 600 assets under management in less than 3 years. He is a leader within his church and co-founded a group called the Kingsmen, which helps men grow their faith and better serve their families and communities. And when he's not working, you can find Aziz on the golf course or spending time with his family. All right, Z, welcome to the podcast. We are so happy to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here.
This story about buying 2457 Watson Drive is a wild story. I had to have you come on the podcast because you were actually the one at the courthouse steps buying this house at the auction. I had to have you come on and tell the audience what that experience was like, what the atmosphere was like. It is totally different than any other house that we've ever bought. The first question I have for you is, how did the process work to buy this house at auction? Like, if someone has never bought a house at the courthouse step, what can they expect when they're walking into this?
Literally on the courthouse steps. The first time I've experienced it, it was always like courthouse steps. And when I got into the real estate world, I've never experienced any of that, but I've always heard about buying tax houses, buying this and that, and then going to the courthouse steps, and the announcement of it. So when I first pulled up to the courthouse, there it was, right to the left of literally the steps, which was pretty fun. And I'm like, oh, this is real. This is fun. Right there was an experience and a half being new to it. At the time, we had a lot of good real estate agents that looked at a few houses for us and mentioned to us, because we do our homework. We like doing our due diligence and finding houses. There were some real estate agents that, hey, did you ever try the courthouse steps? And so we gave it a try on Watson, it worked out for us, which was great. Telling the story ahead of time, it was fun, and it is a story. It is.
So we found out about this house because, like you said, a real estate agent that we were working with at the time found out this house was coming up for auction, and he knew kind of our buying criteria, and so he sent it to us and he said, hey, I think this would be a good fit for you guys. Are you interested in buying a house at auction? So we were like, hey, let's try it. It did fit our criteria. It looked like the price was going to be right, but it was also definitely a risk because buying a house at auction is not like buying any other house. So you don't get to do a real home inspection. So all you can do is a drive-by of the property. We did that, and our contractor went in, and of course you try to look and see if you can see through the windows or see if any doors are open to try to get an idea of what's on the inside, because you really don't know. So there definitely is a bit of a risk component to buying a house at auction. I think this would be a really good opportunity to talk about how we did this as a team.
Well, we divided and conquered, which was a really smart idea. Sending me there, the first, as a sales and negotiations, I'm always about sales, the prices and all that. So when we looked at the price, what we could get at auction was very appealing to me. And I thought, okay, this might be too easy until I got to the steps, because then you're bombarded with everybody and their mother and all these buyers and all these experts, and everybody's a flipper, everybody's a wholesaler, all that. So what did we do differently? Well, Maura does what she does best, I do what I do best, and our contractor does what they do best. So we divided that out, and while you're looking up to make sure that the numbers work, we sent our contractor, and I felt like you're pieced in, I'm on the steps, and our contractor is talking to us the whole time, driving around it. And sometimes there's people will let you onto the property or let you there, or if you're lucky, or a door is open, or the window's open, you can kind of take a good peek at a lot of things. They try to get all that stuff. Look at the foundation, look at the yard, look, is there a car in the driveway? Are there people there? Giving you a heads up to say yes or no, to kind of give you a little bit of an advantage before we pull the trigger on something. It's a lot better to do it that way. I feel more comfortable than going in blindly, than just by looking at a discount or a big price drop, because everybody knows it's always too good to be true when you get something pretty cheap or you get lucky with something. Something's going to bite you or, you know, something's there, which was great to do it that way. So Maura's on the computer digging some stuff around, calling the title company, and then we're all communicating with one each other. That was fun doing that.
It was fun. It kind of brought me back to, it was kind of like a military operation where like I'm back in the office on the computer doing all the research about what's happening. Z's out there on the steps, like just on his phone, like, okay, like here's the pricing, like these guys are dropping out here. And then Chris is out in the field trying to scope out the house. It was fun.
It was fun.
Tell the audience, just if you can paint the picture, how many people, what was it like going to the courthouse steps? Like just if you had to paint the picture for someone that's trying to get an idea of what to expect going into this, what was it like? How many people were there? What was the kind of mood? What happened when you were at the courthouse step?
There were probably between 35 to maybe 40 some people there, and everybody's holding their notebooks, computers, and you know, you get people there just been there, done it 100 times, and you get to know who is there because as soon as you walk up, they know each other's names. They're talking to each other. They're knowing that they're getting into a battle, and it just the atmosphere was like when I walked up. You know, I'm a newbie. They knew that from the jump, but nothing really bothers me. Being a negotiator in sales, a deal's a deal. Nothing really like, and that's the difference between me. I think I don't get into challenges. I don't get into all these things. When I negotiate, I really want to listen and hear. So listening on the steps and finding out what kind of people are go there. And I go and communicate with some of these guys and let them tell all the stories they want. You know, let them show off, let them say a couple things, let them teach us this thing. And I just sit there and say, wow, and take it all in. And know in advance whether I have a chance or not. If I'm going to have a chance, like they try to dig who you are, what you do, and how many did you sell, and try to promote themselves. And business cards are flying everywhere. So it was interesting to see the different types of buyers, the different types of people that are flippers or wholesalers or whatever. So there was a lot of different, you know, there was a great mentors out there. There's a lot of good people that I respect wholeheartedly. I just went out there and just put my ear to the wall and just listen to these guys, watch the action, watch their reaction. So that way I can assess and know my strategy on how to approach these guys or what to do. Or maybe I have to work a side deal and ask these guys not to bid on this one. And I'll sweeten the deal by doing something. Like you always have to think about these different strategies and different things. Sometimes you have to appease some of these guys by telling how awesome they are, you know, just don't jump into that and learn from them, you know, and some you really will learn from and some are just blowing smoke. So it was very interesting and cool. You really had to be there to do it. But I think I was on the phone with you telling you like, oh my gosh, I don't know if we have a chance, but luck has had it that my first experience came down to a rain pour. It just downpoured so badly that I'm a patient man. Like rain doesn't bother me and it's still on the outside. And I went to my car, grabbed my umbrella, grabbed my laptop, sat on the bench, and one by one it was just leaving, and left me with maybe 5 people. And of the 5, one was interested. And I was like, you know, are you really interested? Or are you not really interested? And they left. And it was just me, and then I waited till that one house came up, and then was the first bid on it. So, and got it. So it was fun. It was fun in that way. But listening to some of the nightmares that these guys were talking, scaring the heck out of me. I don't know if they were doing it on purpose, but they were scaring me. Some guys were scaring me about, and then we came into some of these things. But even though you're doing all this homework and we had the team, we had this military operation going on, the things that we didn't think about, even though the titles are like you could deal with a sibling or a cousin or an aunt that will not let it go or will not sign, or, you know, people were saying that they will sign, don't worry about it, but you'll find it's not as easy as you think. You might run into a problem where a person will not leave and they'll just squat. So many people at the steps told me their war stories. And when they told me these war stories, and some of them, I'm like, well, what are you still doing here? If you have this one problem, what are you still doing here? And so they kind of navigate through that. So it was fun. It was fun and interesting.
Looking back on this one, it was probably one of the most fun purchases. Although, like you just mentioned, it's a lot riskier than a traditional purchase. We did do some things to reduce our risk. And these things I would recommend that other people do also. So the first thing is we ran our numbers, did our analysis like usual, and we came up with our number. And I think it was either 60,000 or 65,000. We figured out what was going to work for us with our profit margin. Z actually went to the auction with a cashier's check from the bank for that amount. It was 60 or 65,000, and we ended up getting it for a lot less than that. That was it. Like, you know, we went in and we were not going to go over that number, which was good. You don't want to get caught up in the bidding war.
And you can get caught up in that atmosphere, and it's fun. It is. It's like going, you know, to a casino or something, getting caught up into something, and it's a battle. Who's who? Or I got the money, but we had the right strategy. We went to the bank. We said, this is the amount. We pulled that amount and put it into a check. If I miss it, I miss it. If I get it, I get it. And that was it. And that was, to us, I think that was the best thing to do. Instead of like, I think I can get it for an extra 1,000, or I think I can do that a little bit more. Then it puts us out of our budget.
Exactly. And the other smart thing we did is we had the title company, one of the title companies that we work with all the time. We had them pull the title on this house and do some research to make sure that there weren't any liens or encumbrances on the house. That's probably your best bet to try to make sure that there's not some sort of weird legal situation going on with the house. No, that's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's not going to protect you against so I don't want to make it sound like a title search is going to save you from a weird situation, because not always the case, but it's definitely something that you can do, that you should do, at least that preliminary look to make sure that there's not a huge problem on the surface. And we you know, this was our first time buying a house at auction, so we did know that these other issues could come up. And we're lucky. We do have a couple great lawyers, so we're like, okay, you know, if something weird does come up, we'll probably be able to deal with it. We got lucky on a few things on this deal, which was one. It wasn't a totally weird legal or squatter situation. We got lucky with the rain, and we got lucky that wasn't something drastically wrong with the house, because we couldn't get inside. We were like looking in the windows. Chris was looking in the windows. We couldn't get inside. So we didn't know for sure what we were walking into until we actually got the keys. So we did luck out a little bit. Okay. If someone in the audience wants to go try to buy a house at auction, what advice would you give them?
Just be prepared. You're not the only one. Just don't assume that you're going to go get it. Be prepared for a little battle. Auction stuff, you know, you see it on TV all the time, movies all the time, people flipping up and they're looking at each other like, I'm going to get this. And, you know, they just overdo it. And it becomes more of a pride thing than it does a business thing. Just make sure it fits in your wheelhouse and make sure the numbers will work, and know what that extra is. Like, what is your peak? And learn to walk away. Learn to say no and say, hey, God bless you. Take it. It's yours. And just walk away. That's one thing I would. And then also go in and listen to some of these people. Some of these guys, they've been there, done that, and you can learn a lot. Some of these guys will tell you a lot of things and be truthful to you. There are a lot of those guys there that, you know, that will kind of give you insight. So maybe you missed the first one, and then go and watch, just see how they negotiate back and forth. Watch those things and go from there. I think that was very, very important for me to learn and observe how some of these people work, and it kind of created a new strategy for me, how to deal with it. Now, fortunately for us, I didn't have to like squeeze myself when the rain did it for me. So it worked out good. But that's what I would say to do.
That's great advice. I think just maybe even going to one or two and just observing. And then once you kind of get the lay of the land, then maybe going a second or third time when you're more serious about purchasing. That could be a good strategy, just to go get oriented with the atmosphere and then maybe wait till the next auction to try to seriously get a property.
Yeah, that's real good advice. I definitely advise on that.
A lot of this podcast is about, I think some of the main lessons learned are about how to buy a house at auction, but let's talk about once we got the house, what do you remember about managing this flip?
This particular one was dear to me because my father went with me to this flip, and to know my father, he was a pharmacist, nothing to do with real estate or anything like that. When he retired in the pharmacy, anything that we did, he watched so many Flip My House, so many American Pickers, so many all these things, that he went with the clipboard with me and just started writing the stuff. So that itself was fun doing that. But we walked in, and sure enough, it was loaded from top to bottom with just junk and the refrigerator, furniture, books. It was upside down. I mean, we had to crawl through some stuff, clothing, and I'm sure a lot of flippers out there, they've experienced this, but this was one of our first where it was kind of sad in a way because it was a lady who passed and it was a family home. And what was sad about it was that you can tell they just got the important stuff and left pictures and left Bibles, they left books, they left remembrance stuff, and it was kind of sad to see. And my dad really got affected by that. He couldn't imagine any children or anybody that was left the property that's all they would grab. They just get the good stuff there and leave. So that was kind of sad. And I remember we had to clean a lot of it, and my dad was at the time watching American Picker, so he would get off to the side and put all this stuff that he wanted, and we're like, Dad, whatever you want, take it. We don't want to deal with it. And so that was fun. I still have a little bit of knickknack stuff that he has from that. It was a lot of memory, but that flip there, cleaning it out, and then the backyard. Remember, the backyard was just a disaster. It was just a monster, snake infested, weeds and growth everywhere. So getting on the back deck was very hard because that was kind of grown in. So even for our contractor to go out and look at it to inspect it, he couldn't get in the back because it was just so covered up.
Yeah.
Overgrown. So then we didn't know how far back. So when we got our landscape guy out there to start cutting, we had a lot more yard than we expected. We cut it all the way back, and we found some things back there, which was pretty fun. That was interesting. Our contractor kind of designed the house. I think these were during the times where houses were selling at 130, 150, something like that, like really low.
Yeah, we ended up selling it for 135.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really low and compared to what we do today. Putting the right fixtures in there. It's a really good neighborhood, and making sure that the front and the back was approachable and looks good. It was a great neighborhood. Our contractor that we did at that time, he wasn't organized. We didn't know if the roof was going to be done we had a set plan. Maura's plan is this, and this guy was complete opposite of us. And I remember us working through 4th of July and doing whatever it has to do, bringing them food and making them work and doing all these things and going through this one contractor. And then he had to go do something. We had to go through another. So coordinating all that was kind of weird. It was an interesting flip. But it came out beautiful and turned out really well and worked out for us.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about this was a kind of a crazy time in the business, and we'll probably have to do a whole nother episode about what makes a good partnership, because we had some big changes happening around this time in the business. I remember now. So yeah, we had a new contracting team that did the work. To say that their style of management was really different than ours is an understatement. Yeah. It was a big adjustment. That great guys, and we have a good relationship. We don't really work together because it's just our management styles are too different, but good guy. This house we learned a ton on. So we learned the whole auction process. We learned another little tip that people can use is we learned about coordinating with local charities. So we ended up partnering with Veterans United on this house because, like Z was saying, this was a probate house. The lady had passed away. Her kids left everything at the house. So there was a lot of good usable stuff. I mean, not stuff that we wanted. Veterans United came and took most of the stuff and was able to use it for their charity organization. So that was a total win-win because we ended up not having to pay anyone to demo and clean it out. The charity was able to get some usable stuff, and we got a little tax write-off. So that was an awesome little win.
And a shark vacuum.
Yes.
I did win a shark vacuum.
Literally to this day, Z still has a nice shark vac from that house. So such a win. You're right. This house, we had definitely some construction headaches because
we did
figuring out how to try to work with this new contractor team. So there were some headaches along the way, but the house did turn out really nice. And this is where we started to figure out, okay, we need to have kind of a template for how we do each house.
Correct.
And now if you look at how we do a lot of our houses, you can look back to this one, to Watson, and be like, this is the start of where the Duratus style started. really was on this house.
Right. That's when you built the template.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that was fun. And there's a lot more that I remember about this deal, which was great.
yes. One thing I want you to tell the story of what you did on 4th of July, because this is just another small tip.
Well, they were talking about complaining about not we were on a deadline, tight deadline, and the contractors were all over the place. And I'm like, what's it going to take? And they're like, well, we will work on 4th of July, but we want to take breaks. And I just brought them barbecue. I just went full moon and just loaded up with barbecue, made a little spread outside, and offered it to wherever they wanted, and got them everything. Put a little bucket, put my little laptop on there, 4th of July, and just whatever they needed, I went and got them food, drinks, whatever. I'm not trying to push beer or anything. If they wanted some beer, I went got them a beer or whatever it was. Any cigarettes, I went down to the convenience store. Just don't leave. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'll just sit here with you. And I took the 4th of July and stayed at the house there with them. I don't have to take off 4th of July either. We want this house done, and I'm going to show you. I'll sit here with you guys and do whatever it takes to do it. So that was fun there. So getting them barbecue was an extra tip to do, and they were like very happy with that. Got them some good food, and we had some good times, joked around a little bit, made it happen.
I think that story, it highlights a couple important things. Like, so number one, I think one of the hardest parts of any project is the final push, the punch list phase. Everybody kind of hates that part of the project. The contractors hate it. And that's a lot of times where you as the owner, like, have to go in there and do something like this to like really make that final push to get it over the finish line. We've had to do stuff like this many times.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think how you did it is such a great way, because you did it and not, if I think back to how I did on the first project, I came in like all marine and yelled at everyone, like, we need to get this thing over the freaking finish line, like hurry the F up, and Z comes in with a much nicer approach, bringing food, okay, so that people are not driving off the job site all the time and they're actually sticking around, trying to make kind of a hard situation just a little better and lighter. And I think, and just showing that leadership, like, hey, I see you guys are here working on 4th of July. Like, I'm going to be here with you. That does go a long way with your guys and getting the job done.
It does. You get made fun of there, but let them do that. Let them do whatever it takes. And you get to learn what you're good at, what you're not good at. I still realize that, I'm on the financial team. I do acquisitions. We do all these things. We buy, we negotiate, I sell. Put me in project management was a challenge, because I tried to take it on from there and realized from then on, I'm like, I don't know, but I know how to sell myself and sell the idea and sell them to stay. And then just listening to those guys and have them have a word and teach me something and keep them staying there and keeping them doing things. That was very important to learn and do. And then bringing them some wood off the truck and stuff like that. Here I am, rolling up the sleeves and having fun doing it. It's not like, my dad and my family didn't make me work my entire life. But that was fun. But I was doing stuff I was never used to. They'd always joke around in the construction world. I think Kevin and all them. So I would just go sit in the truck. Give me the measuring tape. Give me this, and that, and just go sit in the truck. But over time, I've learned. I think that was my first experience, like really trying to manage, because we lost our head guy there and we had to manage everybody else. And here I am, how do I tell this guy who's been doing something for years, to do his job? We had to learn that. That was fun.
Yes.
That was fun.
Yes.
That's when I was sending you fake pictures of me working a saw with sawdust all over me.
Yes.
And stuff, and telling you how bad my 4th of July is and stuff like that. There was a lot of good times there.
This was a crazy project, but it is one of the really fun ones to look back on, and so many good lessons learned on this one. I know that everybody will take, hopefully the audience takes away some great lessons learned from this.
Oh, yeah. Run. I mean, it was fun. It was.
Well, Z, thank you so much for coming on, giving everybody a little peek into what it's like to buy a house at the courthouse steps. I know a lot of people will find that very interesting, and we can't wait to have you back for the next one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Maura.
Thanks. That was an awesome conversation with Aziz. I just want to take a quick minute to recap some of the main takeaways that we discussed about this project. Number one is to be prepared before you go and buy a property at auction. Make sure that you do diligence, get a title search done, go look at the house to the best of your abilities, and make sure that you run very conservative numbers and know your limit and highest bid. Very important to not get wrapped up in the bidding war at the auction. Along the same lines that we would probably give to someone is maybe go and observe an auction first before buying a property at auction. That might help you get the lay of the land and feel a little bit more confident when you go to purchase your property at the auction. We talked about a lot of other great takeaways from this project, but another small one is to see if you can find a free junk removal partner in your area. Like we discussed for this project, we partnered with Veterans United to clear out most of the house, and that was a win-win for everybody. And there are many charity and nonprofit organizations like this throughout the country. So do a quick search of your area and see if you can find a nonprofit partnership that will help you with junk removal, probably provide a tax write-off, and you're also helping other people. So that is a win-win and another nice little takeaway from this episode. I want to give a quick thanks to our show sponsor, Duratus Academy. We have a bunch of free investor resources, as well as all of our podcast show notes, an awesome blog, and a masterclass about how to get started in real estate investing at our website, duratusacademy.com. Make sure that you go check it out. Check out some of our free resources, as well as our masterclass. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope that some of my lessons learned will help you in your real estate journey. And stay tuned next week as we discuss our project at 548 Cary Drive, where I continue to learn my lesson about partnering with contractors. See you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. We are a new and growing podcast, so every rating, review, and share helps immensely. Also, make sure that you're following us on social media, where you'll see a lot more behind the scenes content on a daily basis. See you every Tuesday and Thursday.